the level of protection that a tank can have is generally in line with its weight. So on the left here we have a very heavily protected, already quite heavy NATO MBT, the Leopard 2A7, which has been through the Malagasy upgrade package and is now even heavier, albeit much better protected against pretty much every threat on the battlefield except collapsing bridges under its own weight. A good example of protection being commensurate with the weight of the vehicle is the T90 M-Pirov-3, which I've covered in another video. Now, I really like the T90, not commending its usage by everyone that uses it, though India do use these, the MS. But for its weight classification, this is actually a superbly armoured and engineered piece of equipment. There are videos of these being destroyed, but you have to remember that a lot of those videos are very propagandized. You don't necessarily see the start, end of the battle or the full destruction of the vehicle. Sometimes you do. NATO tanks can also be destroyed, as we know. Now, in between the very heavy and the somewhat much lighter Russian T90 is the Japanese Type-10, which is, if you like, the Civic Type R of tanks. It's a
Type R? You mean a VRS?
Budget lady still thinks her VRS is better than the Civic Type R.
You agree too.
We know she's wrong. Now, I call this the Type R of tanks because one, it's very expensive and the new Type Rs are stupidly expensive, but two, it's lightweight and it's got incredibly good protection as standard. It's designed to be used in the areas of Japan which can't take the Type 90 bridge. And if you tried to fit a NATO standard tank, especially this upgraded Leopard, you'd find that it wouldn't meet most of the bridging requirements. So this is a good base place to start, and the Malagasy Mugen Works have upgraded it quite heavily. And what we have is a tank just weighing over 50 tons, so it's really strategically transportable. It's got the excellent adaptive suspension system. It takes all of the superb features from the Type-10 tank and adds to them in a way which improves battlefield survivability without adding extra weight. Now, personally, I'm very pleased with how this has come out, and it is becoming my favourite tank. It's actually knocking the Merkava 4 off the pinnacle. And that is because it's still lightweight, but it's still incredibly well protected. So I've modified this with plasticard and bits from the spare bin. And I've modified it using my tried and tested formula, which I won't bore you all with, of belly plate for anti-IEDs, anti-IED and side armour on the turrets and on the hull, and active protection system. Now, to keep the weight down, this tank uses a lot more active protection. Now, the Type-10 is already really well equipped. It's got the auto load of rounds at the back there. It's got 3 crew. It's now got this RWS and the 50 cal there just to give it a bit more forward anti-infantry firepower. The main threat to tanks is mainly anti-armour weapons and ATGMs. Tank-on-tank combat, even though the Ukraine war is a bit of a strange one, is quite rare still. So I've added hard kill APS, active protection system, at the front on both sides, and that's got the radars there, the Tropheena system. And then we've got a radar on each side of the turret bustle and these swiveling, turning active protection boxes. So if the radar detects a threat coming in, the active protection will turn and engage it within milliseconds. There's a radar on the rear as well, and that negates the need for heavy screens and slat armour. Although to stop pooping drones pooping onto the ammunition bustle, it does have a sort of mini cope cage. And the same thing is carried over on the other side of the tank. So we're delivering here protection without weight. And active protection is a really good way of doing that. On the Leopard tank, it does have active protection. The T90M doesn't have it, and the Type 10 doesn't have it, but the Type 10 does have lots of warning systems like the T90 does here and around the side, and those are designed to trigger the smoke grenades. Now the Type 10 retains all of that base system, but by adding the hard kill protection system, it adds an extra level of protection without the weight increases of having to put tons of top attack armor on the front of the tank. This tank is incredibly well protected for its size and weight as standard, and I think that this will be a strong contender for the Great Tank Off. Let me know what you think. Like I said, this is becoming one of my favourite vehicles now. To me, this may become my favourite tank. It is expensive, and that's the only downside. Just like the Type-Rs have gone up in price, these things are not cheap, and part of that is because they use what's called nano steel. They've got fully adaptive suspension systems. It really is a very advanced tank, but at a really good weight point. Take care. Goodbye.